Hello and welcome to Interviews from My Hometown. My name is Seth, and today we have with us Blair. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here.
So, Brian, could you give a brief description of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am 32 years old, and I was born in Midland, Texas, and now live in Wenatchee. Actually, recently just moved to the city of Wenatchee, which is pretty cool. I've got 3 kids and a wife named Christy, and yeah, that's a quick rundown. I'll let you ask some more questions to get more details.
So, how long have you lived in the greater Wenatchee area? I know you just said you just moved to Wenatchee, but
Okay, so moved to Kashmir, Washington, where I went to school all through high school, middle school, and elementary school. Moved there in 1996 and moved from the state of Texas where I was born. So I was 8 years old, just wrapping up the end of second grade when we moved.
okay. Uh, so what was the early life for you? Like, what about sports? You play any?
Yeah, so growing up in Kashmir, that was a big thing for me. Baseball was my number one sport growing up, but I also played basketball, tons of basketball, and football as well. In high school, I played those 3 sports and had hopes to play some college baseball. So I really pushed hard in that area. Didn't actually end up doing that. Ended up just going to school at the University of Washington. But baseball was that sport that kind of lasted. But as well, like you ask about growing up, um, my kids are starting to ride bikes for the first time. And
Yeah.
so like bike riding and rollerblading, skateboarding, snowboarding, man, especially early on, I was big into those, more extreme sports, and definitely a guy that chasing some adrenaline. So I've always loved those things, and so I was growing up. Those are some of the memories I have. A lot of is just being around town in Kashmir, rolling around on my bike or my blades, and ripping up the town.
Yeah. What about extracurricular activities like a drama club or something like that inside of school?
Actually, I did. I was in choir
Okay.
and jazz choir, and then I later in high school started playing guitar. So I started picking that up as well. But yes, choir, jazz choir was always that kind of thing that not many people would know about me,
Hmm.
But I always loved music, so it was a big part of my time growing up.
Yeah. What about any good stories from like first jobs or something like that?
Okay. So my first job, my stepdad worked for, my stepdad owned a construction business. So growing up from, gosh, middle school on, every summer I was swinging a hammer or working in the shop. My dad owned actually a custom pool and spa design and build company, and so. Um, this is one of my buddies right here. And so in the summer, this is my son Bowden. Say hi,
Hi,
buddy.
Bowden.
So, can you give me a little space, buddy? Yeah. Thanks, buddy. So in the summers, I just started working for my stepdad. It's kind of landscaping stuff early on, but then started actually building custom pools and spas. Pretty awesome stuff. That was my first full-time career job. I went to college to for a construction management degree, and so that was a big part of my kind of early career. Um, and so that was really my first job and only job throughout high school.
Okay. Um, Let me ask about your college career. Where did you go to college, and what were you originally studying, and then what did you push into?
Yeah, so good question. Kind of a long story. I right out of high school got accepted to UW and decided to go be a Washington Husky. I didn't know anybody going there. Kind of a big part of my testimony was going there, and just what God was doing in my life at that time.
Mhm.
I went there again to study construction management, but I didn't get into the program, and so into my junior year, I had to make a change. All the while, I had been trying to double major, or at least minor in Spanish
Mhm.
as
Okay.
well. Uh, so, um, so what happened was, is the fall going into my senior year, I actually dropped out of UW and came home to work for the family construction business and construction management. Ended up doing that for about 5 years. And when I was 27 years old, went back to school, went to Central Washington University, where I got my teaching certification and finished my Spanish degree. And so when I got done with that, I became a Spanish teacher and a teacher for English as a second language. And so that's it was a big passion of mine. I loved language. I loved uh, in college. I got to travel a little bit
Okay.
and traveled to the Dominican Republic, to Mexico. Just loved the language of Spanish, and so kind of immersed myself into that culture even as a teacher as well.
Awesome. Uh, Let me ask about your wife and kids. Like, what are their names? What do they like? And how'd you meet your wife?
Met my wife. This is why it was good for me to go to UW. Met my wife day one at the University of Washington. I was
Wow.
actually dating another gal at the time, but we became really good friends, and there was no weird stuff going on there. But we were really good friends all my freshman year, and we started dating my sophomore year.
Okay.
Um, we ended up getting married in 2010, which would have been the summer of what would have been my senior year at UW. And then we have, so we were, it was just us for 4 years, and then we had our first child. Her name is Paige Marie. She's now 4 years old, and she was born in 2015.
Wow.
Um, and 18 months later, our twin boys were born.
Okay.
So we have two boys. Pierce came out first, and 7 minutes later, his brother Bowden came out. So Pierce Allen and Bowden Leroy.
Okay.
Those are our kids. So they're, again, really close in age. It's kind of at this point, they're all kind of in very similar stages of life. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of like having triplets. Um, and so we are a busy and full and loud household at the Blair house. So that's kind of where we're at.
All
Yeah.
right. Let me ask about your work and go into what you do on a daily basis.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I left my teaching job because I got a job offered as a full-time pastor at Grace City Church to be a youth pastor, which is crazy. Um, I mentioned that I left the construction business, went back to be a teacher and a baseball coach, actually. And that was a job that I really loved, and I could have done that for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Um, it was definitely something that God's put on my heart to do. Um, but when this job to be a pastor came on board, um, I really, it struck a chord. And so that's something that I jumped into, and my goodness, it's been amazing. So for the last 2 years, I've been on full time at Grace City Church as the youth pastor for junior high and high school primarily. And then, gosh, I'm involved with a lot of other things there as well, especially now in this quarantine time. But
Yeah.
that's my primary role there now. So full time youth pastor. I'm the youth guy.
What's your favorite story from being a youth pastor, if
Oh
you have
man.
one?
Okay. Um, man, I mean, just on a more sentiment note, I was invited to do a winter retreat, to preach at a winter retreat the year before I got hired.
Mhm.
Um, I was just volunteering my time around the students, and they asked me to do this retreat. And that's when the light bulb went on really for the first time in my mind and my heart that this was something that was for me. And so I look at that weekend up at September pretty fondly. I really love that time. And just on other notes, like more of a funny note, gosh, I just, I love the guys that I work with. Our staff is incredible. We have a ton of fun. And in particular, the guys that I get to hang out with there, it seems like there's always just some low level shenanigans always taking place in the office. And I just love that. Um, and so just in general, just the time and laughing and encouragement around the office is one of my favorite things about this gig. It's pretty sweet. Just the men that I get to be around and on a daily basis that are in my life now. It's making me a better husband, a better friend, a better father, um, better pastor. It's pretty cool. That's, definitely an upgrade from uh, just my working environment before, even as a teacher, which was awesome. So that's saying quite a bit. It's been quite the upgrade from even what I thought at the time was really cool.
Awesome. Um, what do you like to do outside of work?
Uh, so springtime's coming around. I'm itching to golf.
Okay.
Uh, I love to golf, and I'm not that good, but I really like it. And anything in the mountains, anything in the water, love. Some of those things like hiking and mountain biking specifically. Love to do a little rock climbing. I love being on top of a mountain, and I love being able to take in the views of the great PNW. You know, um, gosh, those are the ways that I recharge. And then on a daily though, just regular working out is something that I have to do. Um, pretty constantly. I need the opportunity to just sweat it out. So
Yeah.
whether that's just a hard workout or running or something, I need to be sweating it out. So I really enjoy that. I love pushing myself in that way. And I think that just is from sports. Grew up, especially sports like football, just pushing myself pretty pretty intentionally in that way. So that's something I still like to do.
Yeah, I've been feeling that gotta sweat it out every day
Yeah.
recently. I love mountain biking, and I kind of slumped off this whole last season, and
Yeah.
I got a new bike for Christmas. And so I've been riding that around a lot more and realizing my legs are out of shape for anything I want to do.
Right, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It takes a minute to get those saddle legs back on, man.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite spots to be at around town, like restaurants or uh stuff
Okay.
like that?
So I'm a foodie. I love food. I love
Okay.
good food. Favorite restaurant in all the valley. It's a little spendy, but I love it. It's the Watershed up in Leavenworth.
Okay.
It's a farm to table restaurant. They do awesome stuff. And then their owners have a little restaurant called Yodelin. It's also a little spot in Leavenworth. Really love it. It's a little less high scale, a little more affordable, but
Hmm.
still really quality food. Love that. Um, and then recently I had Dusty's Drive-ins
Okay.
burgers. Oh my gosh, it's like so good. Right now, it is like my top drive-in burger. And then I was a teacher up in Indiana.
Hmm.
Another burger secret here for you. Growing up in Kashmir, I loved Rusty's, right? But
Hmm.
after a while, I started to get older. My stomach couldn't handle the Rusty's very often. So, let me close my door real quick here. Um, so up in Entiat, there is a Shell station. And at that Shell station, not many people know this, but there is a Rusty's there. It is
Really?
a little Rusty's, and I'm telling you, it's way better. And I went in there and asked them like why it's so much better than the actual Rusty's in Kashmir, um, and uh, and they just make all their food fresh to order.
Huh.
So it's just awesome. So those are some little secret spots for me that I love. And then, gosh, here in Wenatchee, some of my favorite spots. Um, gosh, it's hard not to say Mela just because I love the interaction. I love
Yeah.
walking in and it's like everybody knows your name in there. I dig that. Um, and then, gosh, man, maybe just okay, La Plaza,
Okay.
La Plaza, the California burrito at La Plaza, by far my favorite. You know what I'm talking about? It's
Yeah.
yep, the Mexican store with the dinosaur out front,
Yeah. We
South
always call it.
Wenatchee. Yeah,
My family always calls it dinosaur store. So.
absolutely. Yeah. So the California burrito, that spot, best burrito in town.
All right. I'll remember that. Um. So I personally feel that you can tell a lot about a person's like everyday life through their music taste. It
Okay.
really helps connect with an audience. So what's kind of like your music taste?
Okay, so it's a wide range. I say I love music. There's always a soundtrack in my life going on, and so I'm very much like a vibe and environment kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm always thinking about how music is setting up my vibe. Like earlier, I was working, listening to on Spotify. It's called Productive Morning, and it's just like some groove tracks, man, really smooth, pretty mellow, but just some tracks, no words. It's really sweet. And sometimes I'll pick that up, and it's some of the when I'm trying to get a little bit more of a groove,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'll listen to just lo-fi beats, man, just to get that kind of bounce going.
Yeah.
So I've got a place for that recently in terms of working and when I'm studying for sermon prep or something. Um, but personal, if like I'm gonna turn on the music right now. Um, I've really been loving Will Regan, who is the lead singer for the band United Pursuit. Sweet worship stuff. Like he's got the Simple Gospels, a song that he does, I really love. Nothing I Hold On To, um, and gosh, a few others, a lot of others that I love. Set a Fire, a lot of others I really love.
Yeah.
Will Regan's one of my favorites right now. Gonna jump around a little bit. My genre that I love very much is kind of that folk singer songwriter area. So I absolutely love The Head and the Heart.
Okay.
Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of them? Love
Yeah.
the Lumineers.
Yeah. I was listening to
Um,
them today at work.
yep, Lumineers of Monsters and Men.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so those are some of that genre. Really love those guys. The Oh Hellos, um, and yeah, Gregory Alan Eisenkopf, Ben Howard. Love Ben Howard.
Okay.
Um, and then so that's that genre. I love that niche. And then I'm from Texas. I grew up on country music. So if I had to choose one band for the rest of my life, it would be the Zach Brown Band. I
Zach Brown
absolutely,
band. Yep.
I absolutely love the Zach Brown Band.
Yep.
There's just something about it that does it for me. Um, and I grew up on stuff like Garth Brooks and Leonard Skinner. It's like Southern rock and country kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So um, those are some of the things that tip me off right there.
Awesome. Yeah. My mom, she absolutely loves country music, and my dad doesn't get it. But so I grew up on Zach Brown band and all this kind of like tropical country almost,
Yeah,
like
totally.
Jimmy Buffett and stuff. Um, so what's something that most people would underestimate about you?
Um, I think one thing is usualmente la mayoría de la gente no saben que yo puedo hablar en español.
Okay, I think I got that last part. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think most people don't know that I can speak in Spanish because I'm just a white dude.
mhm.
You know, I'm like just a homegrown white boy that speaks Spanish, and so I think that's one of those things that's kind of surprising for people. It was always fun for me to say that I'm a Spanish teacher, and I love that. Um, and then I think another surprising thing about me, um, let's see. I think one thing would be that I just have a huge. I'm a bit of a softie.
Okay.
I kind of love to play like the rough and gruff guy, but I've just most people that get it doesn't last long. But most people like it from judging the book by the cover. I don't think they see a guy that's um, emotional,
Mhm.
probably, and that's probably something I think of. I'm a pretty tender guy.
Okay. Um, what's the best compliment someone's ever given you?
Best compliment.
Yeah.
Um, well, maybe a couple of weeks ago, someone from Kingdom Culture said that my mustache was better than Connor's, and so I think that was pretty good compliment. I hope you're listening, Connor.
What does being a Wenatcheeite mean to you? And that's a term I've coined. I don't think that's the actual name of people that live in Wenatchee, but I like
Totally.
Wenatcheeite.
All right. Um, yeah, there used to be this band I used to listen to called. This is not an appropriate band, probably inappropriate songs, but back in the day, they're called Nightheart. It's a local band, and they had this song Wenatchee Valley Boys.
Mhm.
Um, they said, "Get down, this is my hood. Wenatchee Valley Boys up to no good." Yep, it was a pretty good song. Anyway, I would say, man, kind of that theme of no town like hometown. I feel like people that are in Wenatchee and in this valley love being from a small hometown,
Mhm.
and I think there's a real sense of that pride here, a real sense of community, um, and it's like P&W to the core. I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
there's something interesting about this valley that's just so centrally located in the state of Washington, and geographically, it's just right in the middle of all that Pacific Northwest. So I like that.
Yeah. That community thing is something that's always pops up whenever I do these interviews. So that's a theme I'm coming across.
Totally.
um
No town like hometown.
exactly. So I like to give some time to the uh my guests to ask me some questions. As a person that's lived in Wenatchee, born and raised all my life, um, here is a Wenatcheeite.
Yep. First question would be um, what made you want to do a show like this?
Um, so I listen to podcasts all day long at work. That is, it's music or podcasts, and it's like 60-40 podcasts.
Wow.
Um, and I just find the idea of podcast and like the audio medium really fascinating.
Totally.
And then it was something of there's so many interesting people that you don't know about here in the Wenatchee Valley and the greater Wenatchee Valley that you don't hear about.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of getting their story out and getting that idea out of there are amazing people in this valley.
Yep. Totally. It reminds me, Coho Radio used to do this old bit back in the day that was just all the history of Wenatchee Valley.
Yeah.
Um, man, I loved listening to that bit. So I love that. I love that. I love that answer. That's good stuff. Another question I have for you would be I mean, in terms of your passions around town, like what's some of the things that you love the most about Wenatchee Valley? Like if you had to pick, um, what like your top three things about this valley?
Um, top one, top three, man. Community is a big one. It keeps coming up, but everyone knows each other. That's really what it comes down to. And if you don't know the person directly, you probably know someone that does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, another thing is music. This town has brought up some amazing music, some amazing artists. Like my cousin Mike Gamble. He has helped grow two bands here in town called Older and Wiser and Junk Belly. Junk
Oh,
Belly
sweet.
being the bigger of the two bands.
Oh yeah, we've had Junk Belly around. I know about those guys.
Yeah. He's the bassist in Junk Belly. Uh Another band from my dad's one of his best friends, Jamie Howell. He did this for a really long time. Was it's called Fat Happy. Oh man, miss that band. They don't play anymore, but they were amazing music. Um, and then the third one is man, it's probably the atmosphere around town. There's like the mountains and loop trail and everything. It brings so much energy, I guess. That's the best way to say it.
Cool. I love that. Good stuff. Right on, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
Was that all the questions you have for me?
Yeah, I think for now.
All right. So the last thing, the best way I like to end the show is to have the guest come with their favorite joke or a joke. It doesn't have to be your favorite. But
Totally.
what joke do you
I,
have for us?
all right, I got a few. I used to do this a lot. I'm gonna rattle off a bunch. Were my top faves. So these are all Laffy Taffy jokes,
Okay.
by the way. So number one for you. Um, why couldn't the bicycle stand up?
What is that?
It was too tired. There you go. There you go. Here we go. Coming at you again. What do you get when you mix an elephant and a fish?
What do you get?
Swimming trunks. There you go. There you go. All right. What do you call a cow with no legs? Everyone knows this one.
Ground beef.
Ground beef. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here we go. How do you make a tissue dance?
How do you make a tissue dance?
You put a little boogie in it. Okay. All right. There you go. There's a few for you. There's a few for you.
You know, that last one I think I've written on a piece of paper at work. We if we pass along paperwork at work, we always put a sticky note as a joke on it. And
Love
I
it.
think that was one of them. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Those are some of the classics.
Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure having you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And to end the show, Interviews from My Hometown is a production of Hometown Productions. And next week we will have on Connor Welby, amazing person, graduated with him. And thank you for listening. Interviews from My Hometown is sound mixed by Seth Gamble, hosted by Seth Gamble, funded by Seth Gamble, and is produced by Hometown Productions. Music is by Pink on YouTube.